Hello and welcome to this edition of Planet Hope, the programme dedicated to the UN Millennium Development Goals. Now, goal number 3 is to promote gender equality and empower women. Spain is a pioneer in this area, and over the last 30 years, the country's created state organisations to tackle gender violence. One of the main achievements is that violent behaviour towards a partner is now considered a social problem, not just a domestic issue. Spanish authorities have even gone as far as to create courts that exclusively deal with the issue. Our correspondents filmed in one of these courts in Madrid for several days in order to understand the strengths and weaknesses of the Spanish model.
Madrid is held up across the world as an example by governments, political parties and associations wanting to improve the law that tackles violence against women. Spain is a pioneer in the field after introducing specialist fast-track courts in 2005. We wanted to learn more about this model and its strengths and weaknesses. We filmed some of the daily life of court number 3 in Madrid, which is entirely dedicated to cases involving victims commonly referred to as battered women. At these offices, everyone is working against the clock. When a charge of domestic violence is made, the case must go before a judge within 48 hours. 9 o'clock in the morning in the courtroom, the first case of the day is far from the clichés of domestic violence. The allegations are of psychological abuse. This young woman says she's been stalked by her former partner for months.
The day before yesterday, he followed me to my home, and on the way, he threatened to kill me. He said he wanted to kill me, and he wanted to kill my family, and that's why I went to the police. But this kind of thing has happened a lot before.
When you made your statement, you said he threatened to kill you, and that he often threatens to commit suicide.
Yes, and he doesn't just make empty threats. He jumps out of the car when it's moving. Or he takes a knife and he starts to push it into his stomach. He tries to cut himself.
I thought you often phone him too.
When he leaves a message on my cell phone, and when he threatens to send mails to my work colleagues or to call them saying I'm a bitch, then I end up calling him. The times I've agreed to meet him, the times I've called him, were when he threatened me. He keeps his hold on me by threatening me.
As well as her testimony, there's other evidence to support the woman's case. During this first stage of the court procedure, when the accused is immediately brought before a judge, the aim is to keep the men away from their alleged victims. The two parties never have to pass each other in the corridors. Later in the morning, the woman's former partner comes in handcuffed. He looks like the ideal son-in-law and calmly denies all the allegations.
So you put a knife to your stomach and threatened to stab yourself if she left you?
No.
On another day, did you swallow a lot of aspirin and threaten to do the same thing?
I'm the sort of person who often takes aspirin, but no, I didn't do that.
Convincing witnesses testify in the woman's favour. The judge rules that the young man cannot come within 500 metres of the victim. It's an emergency measure which comes into effect immediately.
A judge or a prosecutor with no experience of these kinds of cases might well say, this case amounts to nothing at all. It's not that I want to make it into something bigger than it is, but I know from experience the behaviour the woman's described can become very dangerous over time. It could be dangerous for her, of course, but also for him. It could end in suicide.
In the corridors, other victims are waiting for their cases to be heard. When they arrive, they have to be examined by a court doctor, like this woman whose face is badly bruised, who we'll call Eva.
He punched me. All around the mouth he punched me. He beat me so hard that I felt warm blood gushing out. He also pulled my hair out.
After a few minutes, the doctor comes to collect her. Her medical report will be a determining factor in the hearing that will take place in half an hour.
Show me your injuries. Lift your fringe up a bit. Blows to the frontal and parietal zones. Show me your left cheek. Yes, you've got a lot of damage there. That whole area is swollen. And are your ribs sore?
Yes, this side especially. It's all purple.
The examination reveals extensive bruising, broken fingers, broken ribs. It's the third time that Eba has come to this specialist court. The last 2 times she withdrew her charges at the last moment. Common behaviour by victims that feel frightened and inferior to their abusers.
You said this happened before and you didn't press charges. If you don't, it's going to happen again. Do you understand that? If you don't give evidence against him, the same thing is going to happen.
Yes.
It's your decision. Think about it. Me, the lawyer, everyone here will tell you you should press charges.
But it's not the right time now. I've thought about it. But jail would kill him.
Rosa has examined thousands of victims. In Spain, attitudes have changed. Violence at the hands of a partner is no longer seen as a domestic problem. It's a problem for the whole society.
15 years ago, when we saw women with this type of injury, when they pressed charges, it was pointless. Today, all that's changed. These injuries, once considered minor, are now crimes in Spain.
In the corridor outside the courtroom, we meet lawyer Marta Salas. She's about to represent a victim in a case due to start. She's trying to convince a court clerk to postpone the hearing.
I've spent the last half hour trying to persuade her to testify.
So she's not going to testify, is she?
I have to admit I'm getting nervous.
Family members of this young woman's husband are putting pressure on her to drop the charges.
I've been trying to get her to testify and I think she needs to.
I've been trying to tell her, but she doesn't seem to want to.
Look, we're here for a reason. Sometimes my job is very frustrating. Right now, the victim is surrounded by the abuser's family, and they're all saying you mustn't press charges. That'll be awful for him. Because the majority are foreigners, many don't have immigration papers. And some have prior convictions. That's what happens a lot, and suddenly the trial stops there.
In the courtroom, a new case is underway involving a repeat offender. His former partner is bringing charges against him today with the help of an interpreter. But the judge isn't convinced the man is guilty this time.
So you're saying he forced you to walk in the streets with him for 10 minutes. Then, while holding on to you, he opened the door of the building, forced you inside, opened the door of the flat, and forced you inside there?
Yes, inside my flat.
Really? And how did he force you? Because I have to say that forcing you to do all that for 10 minutes seems pretty difficult. How did he force you to do all that?
Like that. Like that.
By pulling your shoulder, okay, and you have no injuries?
No.
When these specialist courts started up, critics said they would be a fast track to biased feminism running the justice system. Judge Maria Gracia Pereira runs to her office to write up her ruling. She's one of the first Spanish judges to have specialised in cases of violence against women. She strived and continues to strive to defend the quality of the justice meted out by these courts.
Clearly we can't believe everything a woman says just because she's a witness. We're judges. We apply principles of justice, the presumption of innocence. In here, you don't have to prove you're innocent. You're assumed to be innocent. What the court has to prove is guilt.
The last case is a textbook example of what that means in practice. The fact that this man is a previous offender doesn't mean he's guilty, and the charges against him are too weak to send him to prison. The defence lawyer collects the judgment Maria has just drawn up.
He's free.
Free?
But if he commits another offence by breaking the order to stay away, he will go back to prison. So he should take that very seriously, just as the judge said in court.
El 60% es la mayoría cuando son matrimonios que reanudan la convivencia,
In 60% of cases, the couple ends up getting back together. There are many men that don't respect the banning order and the woman gives in. But here in Spain, even if the woman agrees to the man breaking the ban to approach her, the man has committed a crime.
Y ahí es delito el quebrantamiento de condena. Hasta luego.
There might be a long way to go to eradicate domestic violence, but in the last decade in Spain, the number of women abused by their partners has fallen 25%. We meet Eva again coming out of her hearing. For the first time, she's testified against her abuser.
I told the truth, and the judge made an order banning him from coming near me. That's what I'm trying to read now.
And how do you feel?
I feel like shit, actually.
Eva's testimony means a full criminal and civil procedure can start to punish her abuser, but also to handle her divorce from him and the custody of their children. All that will be dealt with here by this specialist Madrid court.
Well, that's it for this edition of Planet Hope. Thank you so much for watching. You'll be able to watch this edition again online by logging on to france24.com. That's france24.com. Bye-bye.